Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Aggieville Alleycats podcast, where come rain, shine, or anything in between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news that you so love. I'm Ace Edwards, right alongside
Connor Baltazar.
And today we will not be getting interrupted by an Applebee's advertisement, and we will be going through the weekly recap of, K-State sports. And we'll be going down the list of men's Casketball, women's Casketball, and the long-awaited arrival of the Batcats, which, spoilers, did not go how we wanted.
No, it did not.
Not remotely.
Oh, we'll get to that.
We'll get to that. But first things first is men's Casketball, and since our last episode, sorry, I have the hiccups. Since our last episode, we have not won.
We have not.
And you could argue that the game we're going to be talking about next, which is against Okie State, which was a loss in overtime in Stillwater, 79-82. This was probably you can declare a lot of games must-win games. This was probably the closest we had to a must-win on the rest of the schedule for our tournament hopes. But
yeah, that's either this or Iowa State. I mean, losing this game has turned our remaining home games into absolute must-wins. Like, if we lose either of those home games, like, we're out of the tournament.
Absolutely. I don't even think we make first four out. Next four out.
I think at the current rate we're on, if we're to hold serve at home and lose at Tech, which is kind of what we're projected to do, I think that we would probably be in the next four out, assuming we don't win in the Big 12 tournament. If we win the Big 12 tournament with a lot of help, we can make it. I really think that at this point we need to pick up 2 wins in KC because that gets us to the championship.
Yeah, but this one just hurts mostly the tournament chances. It's also a game we probably should have won in regulation.
Yeah,
we had the ball. We had an inbound play. And then just, granted, they took 85 years to review the inbound play. But still, with that 85 years, you should have, they were reviewing what came before the inbound play to see who touched the ball last. With that 85 and a half months that you had to plan what you were going to do, you should have come up with something better than that.
Right. Yeah. It was a very similar situation to what happened against Oklahoma State and Manhattan. And also very similar to that situation, we just didn't really have a good inbounds play, except in Manhattan ended up totally working out because Nigel Pack just made a shot because he's good.
Thrower mode.
Yeah. And this time, the lack of an inbounds play cost us in regulation at a 3-point loss, unfortunately. This is another really frustrating game for K-State as well. I mean, it's yet another game where they made more 3-point shots than 2-point shots, only by 1, but still. And now it's another game that you absolutely need to have back. I mean, it's painful to lose a game like this, especially against a team that you've already beat. I guess it's on the road. It's at a place that's hard to win at historically for K-State. And it's with a team that's been playing uncharacteristically hard for having literally nothing to play for.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was a back-and-forth game the whole way. I mean, there was 12 ties and 10 lead changes in this game. So, both teams were playing like they were fighting for an NCAA tournament spot, except only one of them was. Yeah. So, it's really depressing that K-State loses this game. This is a game that Oklahoma State, they were just making all the tough shots that they took. I mean, they were just throwing things up at the rim, and they were just falling in pretty constantly. And they got really hot in overtime. I mean, they shot 62% from the field and 80% from 3 in overtime. Oklahoma State did. And K-State, they were not able to match that. They only made 2 3-point baskets in halftime. And they did get a lot of free throws, but they just were not quite able to finish it off.
In overtime.
Yeah, in overtime. And then K-State, statistically, Nigel Pack, he put in 43 minutes in this game. Although he only ended up with 16 points, did not have a particularly efficient day shooting at all. He was 4 of 16 from the field, 3 of 10 from 3, and he made 5 of his 6 free throws. But he did have 8 rebounds, and then he had a foul, an assist, a turnover, and 3 steals. Marquise Noel, he also had a high-scoring game. Tied Nigel for the team lead with 16. 4 of 13 from the field, 3 of 9 from 3, 5 of 6 at the free throw line. Effectively the same day on just a couple less shots. And then he had 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 turnovers, 3 steals, with 4 rebounds and 3 fouls. He did all that in 35 minutes. Mark Smith had 15 in 39 minutes, 5 of 13 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3, 3 of 4 at the free throw line, 10 rebounds, so another double-double for Mark Smith. He did have 4 fouls, but he also had 4 assists, had 0 turnovers, and 2 steals. So, again, you'd like to see him be a little bit more efficient, but all things considered, you can't ask for much more.
Yeah, he also picked up the 1 tech.
Yeah, and they did have the 1 technical foul, which was...
Don't ask me, I don't remember.
It was something. I all I remember is it being particularly controversial, and because I don't even remember what he did. It was like after like a big shot, and he got teed up for like looking in the wrong direction or something.
Yeah,
but
something like that. Big 12's been really soft with technicals this year, unless you're Bill Self.
Yeah, then they don't count.
Then it doesn't count.
It doesn't count.
Shame.
Could happen to anybody. But
especially to Bill Self.
Yeah. Mike McGurl, he started this game as well at 14 and 38, 5 of 13 from the field, 4 of 7 from 3, which was really nice to see. And then he adds 4 rebounds, 3 fouls, 2 assists, 1 turnover. So all things considered, that's a pretty good Mike game. He made his 3-point shots, and he only turned the ball over 1 time. Did have a few fouls, but all in all, you want him to do really well in one area every game. This time it was scoring, and he puts 14 points up. You're never going to complain about that.
Yeah.
So, and then Davion, he was the last starter, played 22 minutes. He had 2 points, 1 of 1 from the field, 1 rebound, 3 fouls, 1 turnover. So he's been having a lot of stat lines like this recently where he gets a bucket early, and
then just dies.
That's just it. Like, he just falls off the face of the earth, and we just kind of forget that he exists. Which that was fine this game, honestly, at least offensively, because Casey Eziagu had a good offensive game. He had 9 points on 3 of 6 from the field. I think they were like all dunks, and then 3 of 4 at the free throw line, which is really good for him. And he had 4 rebounds, but he did have 4 fouls and a turnover, but he did have a block shot as well. Casey Eziagu, he does have these games occasionally where he just gets open at the rim, depending on opponent and matchup. Like, he can actually be really valuable offensively, but defensively, he is just such a liability right now, unfortunately, with his knee, because he's just not moving very well.
Robo leg.
Yeah, he's got the robo leg.
Let's talk Ioka about how to survive on defense with a robo leg.
That's exactly what he needs to do, is talk to Yoki. But he unfortunately just wasn't able to do a lot. He did have 4 offensive rebounds, which is all of his rebounds for this game, which is impressive. Casey had 16 offensive rebounds in this game, which is phenomenal for this Cats team. 38 total on the game. Ish Masood, he played another 14 minutes. He had only 5 points, so his hot streak kind of comes to an end. He made a 3, made another 2-point shot, had a rebound, a foul, and a turnover. Nothing special from him. Luke Kasubke, he had 2 points, a rebound, and a steal in 6 minutes. Selton, he didn't do anything. He literally registered 0 stats other than 3 missed shots in 11 minutes.
Yeah.
And played some defense. And Carlton Lingard came in for a minute, got pushed around a lot, and then came out. So
the Carlton Lingard experience.
Yep. This game, I think the trademark here is that they shot fairly well from 3, but from 2, this was just an awful game. A lot of missed layups in this game. And our leading scorers, they all did not shoot very efficiently. They did not make many shots on a lot of attempts, especially Nigel, which he's going to have games like that. I get it. He's the leading guy on offense, so he's going to take a high volume of shots. But you need somebody else to fill in and be efficient, whether that's Marquise, Mark, or Mike.
Else.
But they all took 13 shots, and they all either made 4 or 5.
Gotta have more. Gotta have more.
Yeah, have to. The points is nice, but still you need to have some level of efficiency with that. Keeping the turnovers down was good though. They only had 9 to 12 assists. You'd like to see that ratio be a little bit better, but staying in the single digits for turnovers is pretty good, honestly. And then 38 rebounds. You love to see that.
Yeah. And just all in all, this game was was tough, but unfortunately, it gets tougher. It gets tougher. Because now, unless you have something to say on this.
No, I'm done with the Oklahoma State game just because it happened so long ago. Because I mean, it's been over a week, I think, since that game.
No, it happened. I think it happened this Sunday.
Really? Oh Saturday. No, you're right. You're totally right. It just feels like it's been so long because we've been through like major global catastrophe since then. But like,
yeah, what a week, huh?
Yeah, it has been a week. It truly has. But moving on to from Oklahoma State to the KU game.
From one catastrophe to another
catastrophe. But
okay. The next thing that we're going to be talking about is the other men's basketball game that occurred against KU in Allen Fieldhouse, and Connor and I watched this game together. Being fair to us, no one was going to beat KU tonight.
Correct.
Not with the way they were shooting.
Right.
But that's still our worst defensive performance of the year, and I don't think it's particularly close.
Yeah. KU had arguably the best shooting night that I have ever seen from a college basketball team. I mean, because at halftime, I was sitting there like, oh, they're shooting 60% from the field, 50% from three.
It's not sustainable.
I literally said it's not sustainable because it wasn't, because it got better in the second half. They went from 62% from the field, 53% from three in the first half to 65% from the field and 72% from three. They went 8 of 11 from three-point range in the second half.
Dude.
Somehow they shot worse in the second half at the free throw line than they did from the field and from three. Like, this is one of the strangest games I've ever watched because K-State frankly, they had a pretty solid offensive performance, but a lot of that's because the tempo was so high in this game because we were just matching tempo with KU the whole game because they were playing fast and that's how they love to play. And they were getting whatever look they wanted on the weak side help because this is something that has shocked me that has not been exploited more this year, but Marquette did it. And I can't believe more teams haven't done it, is they just like kind of drive like just inside of the 3-point line, maybe into the paint, and they draw in the weak side defender that's like out on the wing or guarding the corner because they have a 3-point shooter out there. And then once that happens, once they get drawn in to help defend the post, the guy with the ball just kicks the ball out to the wing or the corner, and they take a wide open three with a poor closeout every single time. And if the closer does get there, then they just drive and try the same thing on the other side. Like, that's KU's whole offense, and our defense catered to it perfectly, and we made no adjustment to it at all.
Nope.
And we should feel lucky that this has not been happening to us more this year because it's the most obvious way to attack this team other than going to the post. And
which, granted, that's also a very legitimate way to attack this team.
Yeah, and it's the one that I would say most teams have been taking because it's a little easier. It's fewer moving parts. Just give it to your big man who is demonstrably better than ours and just go to work in the paint. And KU essentially did calculus. They just did some basic arithmetic and they said, well, 3 points is more than 2, and we have a team full of talented players that can make wide open threes at a high clip. So we're just going to do that instead of going inside for the most part.
Yep.
And they did that and it worked because McCormick, I was worried about him having a great game and he didn't really do a whole lot. He only had 5 points. Lightfoot, though, he did have a really nice day. He had 6 of 7 from the field and 13 points, 3 rebounds. And he only had 2 fouls and 2 turnovers. So Lightfoot had his way. But it was just the guard play, and I mean, everybody that was taking threes for KU was just raining down on it. I mean, you go down the list and you look at anybody like that takes more than 3-point attempts on KU, they all shot 50% or better, and only one of them shot 50%. You take Joseph Yesufu out of there, you got Abaji who goes 4 of 6 from 3, Christian Brown who goes 3 of 4, Jalen Wilson who goes 3 of 4. And Jalen Coleman-Lands was 3 of 3, so he didn't even miss from 3. And that's unsustainable. The only 2 people to take threes that didn't make them were DeJuan Harris and Zach Clemens. And they only took 3 threes combined. And DeJuan Harris, that's not his offensive role. He got 6 points from driving, and he still had 7 assists. So, and then Zach Clemens, he just hasn't been playing a lot because he's been hurt all year. So this is, I mean, they just attacked us exactly how KU normally would, which is having a really good offense filled with talented players. And we saw them do that and tried to match them with that, but we can't. We don't have the horses to get into a high tempo game with KU. We don't have this is maybe the first time in a while that we've maybe had the shooting to hang around, which is what we did basically.
Till the end.
Yeah, until the end when they kind of like pulled away and our 3-point shot wasn't falling as much. But like we tried to play the same game where we just make a lot of threes, but what we should have been doing this whole game is slowing down the tempo because we were playing right into what KU wanted from us. And we did the whole game, and the commentators even commented on it. Fran Fraschilla was talking about how, like KU was playing the exact game that they wanted. Bill Self talked about it afterwards. He said, I didn't expect the game to go that fast, but it worked to our advantage. I mean, that's just Bill Self basically laughing at Bruce being stupid.
Yeah,
and, which, unfortunately, he's right. And, I mean, this might have been Bruce's worst performance against a KU team that I've seen. Because a lot of times, we've like come in with a good strategy and just gotten out-athleted by them. But this time, like we had a poor strategy and didn't adjust. And that's just unfortunate.
Yeah.
And K-State, I did mention they played well offensively. So I guess we can chat about that. Like, granted, it was basically because KU let them play well offensively.
Yeah, because what else were they going to do?
Because they don't care if we score 83 when they score 102. Like this is a 53-43 game at half. And KU had basically an identical. It was basically the same thing in the second half. It was 49-40 in the second half, and it was getting a little bit more out of hand until the backups came in. But Marquise Noel, he had 20 points in 31 minutes. He had 8 assists. He did have 5 turnovers, 3 rebounds, and a foul. He was 8 of 15 from the field. Had some really nice plays, but down the stretch was playing really lackadaisically.
Yeah,
and it was starting to annoy me how he was playing.
Well, it annoyed Bruce. Did you hear him?
No, what did he say?
He was screaming while they were on defense, have some pride.
Yeah.
Which, like, yeah, that led to Marquise getting sat down.
Yeah. Because Marquise, I was more talking about him offensively than defensively, but also, yes. Like, I do agree with that. That game, like, Marquise was, like, playing so hard early on. And, the worst thing is like, it's like, I don't know what to say about it, like, other than just down the stretch, he just was making lazy plays, just trying to make something. Like, he was just taking lazy threes. Like, the one play that sticks out is the overthrow lob to Ish Masood. Like, that hasn't been Ish's role all year. He's not athletic enough to do that. And he just overthrew the lob and just acted all like lazy about it. And then on the free throws, he was like laughing the whole time. We were down by 20, and he like
did push-ups before.
Yeah, and he like bricked the first one. It's like, I get that like you should like try and have fun when you're playing basketball, but like you're getting boat raced right now, man. And it's not a good look to just like effectively just not care.
Like I at that point, I've been in those situations, and as an athlete, it's not necessarily that you're laughing because you're having fun. You're laughing because that's really the only way that you can get yourself through it. That does not excuse his laziness, but it just, who knows? Maybe he was having fun. Maybe he was having fun doing a little trolling. But probably just laughing to get through it. And that's,
I hope so.
Like that's just kind of how I would describe the last, you could even say like 15 minutes of the game. It's just, all right, let's get it over with. Let's just get through this.
Yeah, that's basically how it was. Because the first half, it was back and forth for a while, but KU did stretch the lead to 10, although we were able to cut that down at the end of the half with some nice plays. But I mean, even in the first half, Marquise he had some really rough plays. Like, he airballed 2 threes in the first half. And man, I don't know. Like, it was the most Marquise game I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Because I mean, yeah, he was our leading scorer. He had 20. He had 8 assists, but he also had 5 turnovers, and his play was poor at times, especially down the stretch. But he wasn't the only guy on the floor. Mike McGurl, he had a nice game. He had 13 points in 32 minutes. He shot from three really well. 5 of 10 from the field, 3 of 6 from the 3-point line. And he had 4 rebounds, 2 fouls, 1 assist, 2 turnovers, and 2 steals. Mike played pretty well, honestly. I don't have a lot to complain about. He unfortunately was the victim of the defensive philosophy a lot in this game.
Yeah.
Where he was caught over-helping inside and being late on the closeout for a wide-open 3 for KU, which, I'm not going to harp on Mike for that because, he's doing what he's told in that situation, and, it's Bruce's defensive philosophy being exposed and not being able to adjust to it. We know that the skip pass or the kick out on the drive is coming. So why are we overhelping every time? I get that you don't want to go man on man with KU driving to the bucket because that's one of their easier plays, but like Bill Self did, we can do some basic arithmetic and figure out that 2 points is less than 3.
Yeah.
And when they're shooting 60% from the field regardless, does it really matter?
No.
That's what I think.
And that's what it goes back. No one was beating KU the way they were shooting.
Yeah. Although some of the shooting does go into us, or go into them just having an unbelievable shooting night. One of the greatest nights I've ever seen. Some of it is also poor defense on our part, poor defensive philosophy on our part. But you know what? You can't blame all of it on the defense. Even even still, leaving people wide open in a regulation basketball game, you can't expect people to hit the wide open shot, especially if at the college level, 60% of the time.
Yeah.
In the second half, 70% of the time. That's just not something that's going to happen very much.
No.
It was uncharacteristically good shooting paired with poor defense that was able to help them out. KU, that is. So, a rough game for K-State defensively. And it's hard. It's hard to say it was a good offensive game because I think that was just KU's strategy.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, is to let us feel like we were in the game and not need to make adjustments because they were effectively letting us run our offense because they were saving their energy, the offensive end, the drive in, and hit the wide open shot every single time.
Yep.
Nigel Pack, he had 13 points, 5 of 13 from the field, 3 of 7 from 3. He had 3 rebounds, a foul, 2 assists, 2 turnovers, a steal in 29 minutes. It was an unremarkable game for Nigel, I would say.
Fun. Yeah,
hit a few nice shots, but he did not have an incredible game by any stretch of the imagination. It wasn't a bad game, but Mark Smith, he had 28 minutes, 11 points, 4 of 12 from the field. He only made 1 of his 6 3-point attempts, which is unfortunate because a lot of them were wide open. And then 2 of 3 for the free throw line. He was 1 rebound away from another double-double. And honestly, that was stolen from him by a phantom foul call at the end of the game on Christian Brown. Because Selton Miguel got rim stuffed on a dunk, and Mark Smith got the rebound and the putback that would have given him the double-double and an additional 2 points. But instead, it was called a foul, and Selton went to the line. I think he might have made both free throws. He may have missed one. I don't really remember. And then Mark had 2 fouls, no assists, 2 turnovers, 2 steals. I'm happy that he at least was not a no-show like he was the first time that we played KU. He played admirably, but gotta have more, especially when he's missing wide open threes. Davion had an interesting game.
Yeah.
he had the very first possession. We went right down to him on the very first possession of the game, and he made a heavily contested layup that he had no business making, honestly, because he was constricting in the air and recoiling from David McCormick. But he made it somehow,
and that was all it. He did.
Yeah, he had 1 offensive rebound at some point. I do not remember that. He had a foul, and he missed another shot in 15 minutes. That was all he did. He played some all right defense on McCormick because McCormick did not have a great day, but when Mitch Lightfoot came in, he was helpless. Granted, a lot of that was Casey Eziagu as well. But and Selton, moving away from the starters, he played 22 minutes at 13 points, 5 of 9 from the field, missed a 3-point attempt, 3 of 4 at the free throw line, 3 rebounds, 1 foul, 1 assist, 3 turnovers, 2 steals. Selton, offensively in this game, I would honestly say the numbers are a bit deceiving. They were actively encouraging him getting the ball offensively,
Yeah.
I would say, because they know that he's not a threat from deep. And if he wants to drive and take the 2 while KU's taking the 3, they're going to let that happen every single time. That, and then also Selton did miss a wide open dunk at the end because he could hear Christian Brown's footsteps coming and he was worried about getting swatted, and he got rim stuffed instead. Luckily, he got bailed out and got some free throws out of it. But and Selton, I don't know if it's fair to say anybody played good defense this game, so I won't.
That's fair.
But I don't recall him playing a defense that was any worse than anyone else. I'll say that. Then Ish, he played 17 minutes, 2 5 from the field, 1 of 4 from 3 for 7 points. 2 of 2 from the free throw line as well. I have 3 rebounds, 4 fouls, no assists, a turnover, and a steal. Moving on from him, Casey Ziegu, he had 11 minutes, 2 points from the field, 2 points, 1 of 1 from the field, 1 rebound. That was offensive rebound. Then he had 2 fouls and a steal. Carlson Lingard came in and added 2 points. And then he had 2 rebounds as well in 4 minutes of play. Kasubki registered no stats in 11 minutes. How?
Didn't even take his signature random 3.
I didn't even take a 3 in a game that was just mired by 3s. But this team, this is probably the worst defensive team that Bruce Weber's had at K-State, because this is only the 3rd time a Bruce Weber team has ever given up 100 points. And the first 2 times were against Baylor last year, both times.
Yeah.
And yeah, like this, it's rough. No way around it. It was the 2nd most points ever scored by KU in the Sunflower Showdown. And we're
short by 1.
Yeah, they missed it by 1, and a lot of that's because they took out their starters. They could have kept raining 3s if they wanted. Although they did leave their starters in until they hit 100 exactly, and they had a substitution timeout. So good for them, I guess. But I don't know. Just I'll run down them. Abaji had 23, Brown had 20, Jalen Wilson had 17, Yosufu had 9, Mitch Lightfoot had 13. I mean, basically everybody got what they wanted on this KU team, and they even got the walk-ons a few minutes, although they didn't really do anything. So, I mean, KU shot 60% from the field, 60% from 3, and 55% of the free throw line, which is just insane. But, I mean, yeah, this is a horrible game for K-State because, I mean, to lose, like, in this way in a rivalry game, I get it's at Allen. But, I mean, this wasn't even, like, past losses in Allen where, you know, you could be like, oh, you know, there's this, like, atrocious no call, like the travel back in 2017, or, I don't know, random other games where there was awful officiating throughout, like the Will Spradling block when he got elbowed in the face. Like, what to tell you about that? And there's other things. Granted, there was a couple bad calls in this game. The one that sticks out is, of course, the charge that was called a Marquise when whoever it was on KU was not just like stepping on the arc,
the epicenter of the arc.
Yeah, it was like both feet like fully in the restricted arc while moving, and it was called a charge on Marquise Noel. It was one of the worst calls I've ever seen. I will preface that with it did not affect the outcome of the game at all.
Nope.
I was just like, wow.
That's just amazing.
I will say I did see some KU fans complaining about the officiating online, which I thought was hilarious.
Okay.
Because I felt like it was fairly like an offensive officiating, especially for Allen Fieldhouse standards. Yeah. I mean, it was 15 fouls to KU, 14 for K-State, which I don't remember the last time we like won the foul count in Allen. I'm assuming probably never. Never. Yeah, we got the benefit of the doubt, I'm assuming, on a few, especially down the stretch when they just saw like how lame duck we were. But horrible game for K-State. And it felt like it was like within reach for a lot of the game as well. But I mean, when the other team is shooting 60%, even if it's your own defense's fault, there's very little that you can do to stay in it. Even when you have, like, I mean, scoring 83 in a conference game, you told me that beforehand. If we were going to score 83 at Allen Fieldhouse, I would have absolutely taken that and ran.
Yeah. You wouldn't have stuck around to hear the second part.
No, I wouldn't have even like stuck around to be like, yeah, KU is also going to drop 100. But Yeah, it was really rough game to watch. Really, the frustration didn't set in for a while because we were hanging around and like playing good offense. So like the failings of the defense were like maxed by that for a bit, but that really became obvious in the second half when they just three after three after three after three. It was horrid. But I think that does it. Did you have anything else that you'd like to say about this game?
No, but K-State does play Iowa State on Saturday in Bramlage at 1 p.m. So be there.
Be there.
It'll be fun. Hopefully.
I mean, like, I like our chances against Iowa State. Iowa State's just been kind of in a tailspin recently.
Yeah, but
they've fallen a long way from being. I think they were ranked in the top 10 at one point.
They were.
To I think they're on the bubble now.
Yep.
And which like wow. I mean,
how
like,
the Iowa State has fallen.
Yep.
How the Cyclone has died.
Yeah. Literally all it takes is Isaiah Brockington having a slightly off night and they just fall apart.
Just gone.
Yeah. Sometimes even when he has an on night, it doesn't matter. But it's going to be interesting to see this Iowa State team going forward, if they continue to be like non-conference merchants or if they actually grow. But I'm talking about like in future years. But
yeah,
we're going to see them this Saturday. And we're going to see this year's version of them. So I'm looking forward to it. But because it's a really K-State has a great shot at winning. If they lose this game against Iowa State, they will not be in the NCAA tournament unless they win the Big 12 tournament.
Yeah,
that would be the only path forward. But it would basically be NIT season in K-State at that point.
Let's go NIT season. But next up is women's Catsketball, and both of these games don't really have much to like go off of. We had a lot of stories for Okie State and KU for the men's team. Neither of these games had massive stories.
Yeah.
The first game was against Okie State in Bramlage. Both of these were at home in Bramlage. It was 56-38 in favor of your Kansas State Wildcats. And we held Okie State. This is the one story, is like we held them to 6 in the first half.
Yeah,
it was a dominant performance.
Oklahoma State had 6 points in the first half, which was hilarious. A lot of it was, or at least some of it was, we were playing really good defense, but a lot of it was they were missing like open layups.
Yeah,
like a lot.
Like comically so.
They didn't make a single field goal in the second quarter. They went 2 for 4 at the free throw line, and they didn't. I think at one point they went from not scoring. It was like from like a minute and a half in the first quarter to about 3 minutes left in the second quarter.
Yep.
So they went about a full quarter without scoring, and they didn't get a field goal until early in the third quarter, and which is horrid. But I mean, granted, Oklahoma State is not a good team. They're 8-15 after that game, 3-11 in Big 12 play. But they did get some shots to fall in the third quarter, but so did K-State. So, I mean, this still ended up being a low-scoring game, just especially because of how the first half went. So it's honestly impressive. Oklahoma State ends up with 38 points after scoring 6 in the first half. And then also this was a really highly attended game. 5,868 tickets sold for this game, and I would say it was probably around there for attendance as well.
Yeah.
Maybe slightly less, but not enough to really like be any noticeable difference. I believe it was the highest attended women's game of the season, which, I mean, those are weekend games. Those Sunday afternoon women's games generally are really highly attended because a lot of people from around Manhattan are able to get to it a little bit easier. But yeah, I mean, Oklahoma State 20% from the field, 22% from 3. They had the anti-KU performance, where they could not buy a bucket. I mean, 0% in the second quarter. Like, that's just horrid. I mean, 0 of 12 from the field in the second quarter. And a lot of those were not difficult shots.
No.
So, but K-State, they did play well, at least comparatively, offensively. I mean, they had their own offensive frustrations where we just couldn't buy a bucket at times, especially from 3.
Still can't buy a 3.
We still can't do it. But Ayoka Lee only played 28 minutes in this game because this game was pretty well in control for the most part. At 17 points on 7 of 15 from the field, 3 of 4 at the free throw line, 13 rebounds, 3 fouls, an assist, a turnover, 2 blocks, and a steal. So she had a fine game. She slowed down a little bit recently because teams have figured out how to guard her. Especially since teams have figured out how to guard her, we've just not been able to make a 3-point bucket to save our lives.
No, because if you can commit 3 people to Ayoka Lee, our entire offense shuts down because no one else can shoot.
Yeah. If we run a set play, that's about the only time we have a shot of scoring. that, or if we can just get lucky with a 3, which we did in the second half. We actually shot 50% from 3 in the third quarter. But Emily Ebert, she was the second leading scorer. She had 13 points, 5 of 13 from the field, and 2 of 8 from 3. She had 2 3-point makes in pretty quick succession in the third quarter, which was interesting because in the late second quarter, she airballed a 3 and airballed a mid-range jumper and was brought out of the game. And then it was interesting because in the third quarter, I think it was the first play that we had drawn up out of halftime, was she went to the corner and took a wide open 3 and made it. And I think it was on a set play. Yep. So it was interesting that Jeff Mitty, after her airballing 2 shots, would go right back to her. And so I like the confidence. He's shown that he's willing to do that in the past as well, is go for a shooter that has really been struggling and draw up a play to get them wide open and build their confidence again. So that did work, at least for this game, because Emily Ebert then would follow it up with another 3 pretty soon after. Still went 2 of 8 for the game, but you know what? After airballing 2 shots,
did it.
That's all right.
I'm fine.
Yeah. And she made 1 free throw attempt, and then she had 3 rebounds, 2 fouls, 1 assist, 1 turnover. I wish they would track how many times that she falls, because she falls a lot.
Yeah, that is true. But recently, it's just been a thing. We just start falling. Yeah,
it's like just something I've been noticing a lot watching the games. I talk about it with one of my friends a lot. Like, we just start like a fall counter, but yeah.
God, if we started a fall counter during the Texas game.
Oh, God. but yeah, Emily had a solid game. And that was all in 20 minutes, so she didn't play a ton, despite starting. And then Briley Glenn, she added 7 points, 3 of 6 from the field, 1 of 3 from 3, a rebound, 2 fouls, 2 assists, a turnover, and a steal. Her twin sister Jalen Glenn had 5 points on 2 of 6 shooting, 1 of 3 from 3, 3 rebounds, 2 fouls, 2 assists, a turnover, a block, and 2 steals. So nice stat sheet stuff in games from the Glenn twins. Nothing incredible, but you have to be happy with that. However, somebody that did kind of struggle this game, though, was Serena Sundell. 1 of 11 from the field, 0 of 2 from 3. Just 2 points on 7 rebounds and a foul. She did, though, have 5 assists, 1 turnover with 2 blocks and a steal. So she made up for it in other areas, but really, really bad offensively. 37 minutes played for Serena. So 1 of 11 from the field, pretty awful. But a win is a win, regardless. And Laura Mackey, she played 18 minutes, was 4 of 10 from the field, 0 of 2 from 3, had 8 points, 5 rebounds, 2 fouls, an assist, and 2 steals. And then we kind of get into some people who just fill in. Simone Goodrich, she was 1 of 3 from the field. That 1 field goal was incredible.
Nuts.
Yeah, because it was like a reverse. It was like you took the Euro step but reversed the ball placement, where she put it under instead of over the person. And it was really smooth. And it was in a fast break play. And she's one of our best finishers at the rim, I would say. That's probably her best offensive quality. Especially when you can match it up with Serena Sundell, who it seems like she really gets bullied or pushed around when she's going at the rim. And sometimes they fall, but days like
today it was not. It was not today.
Like games against Oklahoma State just isn't falling. Simone Goodrich had 3 assists, 3 turnovers, and 2 rebounds as well, and 2 of 4 at the free throw line. Lauterbach played 12 minutes, didn't score any points, had 4 rebounds and 2 fouls. Jada Moore played 6 minutes, and then Rebecca Dollinger played 4 minutes. And that does it for K-State stats. They didn't shoot really that well, honestly. 33% from the field, about 34, and 21% from 3, 6 and 9 at the free throw line for the whole game. So they didn't shoot well, but another team shooting 20% from the field and 22% from 3, that's all right. But
yeah,
this team probably still taking too many threes, settling for too many threes. But Yoki was able to have a solid game and get a double-double again, and we had someone step up offensively, Emily Ebert. And anytime you hold a team to 38 points in a regulation college basketball game, you can't complain that much.
Yeah.
So it was a nice win for K-State. It was no statement or anything, because Oklahoma State's not a good team, but it was a nice win.
Yeah.
So.
And the next game was also in Bramlage, was whiteout for the students.
Yep.
It was a loss, unfortunately. Texas ended up winning this game 62-51, and this is another game where there's not much to say. Jeff Mitty did complain about the referees after the game, which, yes, he did have a point, but that's not why we lost. We lost because we were just kind of outmatched athletically, because they actually had 2 people that could match up with Ioka Lee, whereas most of the country doesn't have one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
what can you do?
That's the best way to look at it. I mean, Texas won this game because of the first quarter. Because the rest of the game, the teams were even, but Texas had the first quarter 20-9, which is an 11-point margin, which is the margin of the final score. So K-State was actually able to kind of figure it out down the stretch, especially defensively. But one thing that they could never figure out was rebounding, because wow, was Texas a lot better at rebounding than us. They had 19 offensive rebounds in this game, and K-State had 29 rebounds total. So it's 41 total rebounds for Texas compared to 29 for K-State. A lot of that is because they have maybe the only player in the country that can actively bully Ioka Lee on size, and that's Lauren Ebo. And granted, I do think she was kind of mauling her in the paint at times.
Which is part of the whole ref ball discussion.
Yeah. This is a Texas team. They play very, very physical. And at times the refs were calling them on it, and other times they were seemingly missing it, especially away from the ball. Away from the ball, they were not doing a very good job at all. On the ball, they did a pretty good job, I think, with limiting Texas and their desire to, I'll say air quotes, play physically.
Yeah.
Because
it's cyberbully you.
Yeah.
Just bully you.
Yeah. Their version of physicality is effectively to foul you, but in really small amounts and hope they get away with it. Basically just poke you, prod you, bump you, and just hope that the refs aren't going to be ticky-tacky with it. And they were on the ball, but they generally weren't away from it. They were a couple of times, but this is a Texas team that loves to get away with little things and just really hurt you. And they play really aggressive defensively. Because, Texas did not shoot very well from the field. It felt like it at times, especially early on. But they really cooled off. They only shot 36% from the field, which is fine. It's just that they were very selective from 3, and they made their wide open shots every time. They're 5 of 12 from 3. It felt like a lot more. So I was shocked when I read that stat for the first time. But K-State did not shoot well. They did take fewer 3-point shots in this game, which is great. However, I think it's because they took fewer shots total.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is because Texas was getting a lot of extra possessions from offensive rebounds. And that's where they got a lot of their points. Texas had 16 second chance points in this game. K-State had only 8. And, that's a backbreaker right there. Because, we only have one person that can really go up and get the rebound. That's Ioka Lee. And at basically any point in time, Texas had 2 people that were about as big as Ioka Lee in the game. And a lot of that is just recruiting, and it's really hard to out-recruit a school like Texas in non-revenue sports because they just dump money into it to be good, because they're the only school that can afford to just dump money into whatever they want, basically.
Yeah.
So it's tough, but the women did play admirably. Although, you'd like to see maybe a better strategy for getting Ioka Lee open. She only had 9 field goal attempts and only made 3 of them. She was perfect at the free throw line, 4-4. Ioka Lee had 10 points, 5 rebounds, 4 fouls, a turnover, and 2 blocks in 34 minutes. But you'd like to see a higher volume of shots for her. You'd like to see a better strategy for getting her the ball. But we've really struggled with figuring that out, and a lot of it is because we just don't have another good post presence right now. Because Taylor Lauterbach has just not been able to figure it out offensively. Because she just is really getting pushed around the post. She doesn't have the ability that Ioka Lee has to just fight through physicality most of the time.
Yeah. Unless she's getting weird rebounds. That's one of the things she's very good at, is getting weird rebounds that you do not expect her to get.
Right. That's exactly right. But other than Ioka Lee, Serena Sundell, she led the team in scoring. Was 16 on 6 of 13 from the field. She made 1 3-pointer out of 5 attempts and was 3 of 5 at the free throw line. She had 3 rebounds, 1 foul, 3 assists, 2 turnovers, and 2 blocks. Serena Sundell, oddly good at blocking. I'm not sure why, but other than that, I'll take it. Emily Ebert, she had 7 points, made 1 field goal attempt in 28 minutes. On she only had one attempt and she made it. It was from 3. She was 4 of 6 at the free throw line. 2 rebounds, 2 fouls, and assists, 3 turnovers. And then the Glenn twins, neither of them were particularly great. They each had 4 points respectively. Jalen 2 of 7 from the field, 0-2 from 3. Briley 1 of 3 from the field, and she actually fouled out in this game. The total opposite of Jalen, who did not have any fouls. And then Jalen added 6 rebounds, an assist, 2 turnovers, a steal. Briley had 3 rebounds, 3 turnovers, and a steal. And you move on from there. Simone Goodrich, she kind of had a rough game. She had some pretty poor turnovers, made some really bad choices in transition as well. She had one play where she kind of like lobbed the ball to like Serena Sundell, but she got way too close and tried to like lob it over a defender, right. And it was very easily picked off. But she also had some nice moments where she like, drove to the bucket and got fouled and made some free throws. So I mean that's just kind of what you get with Simone Goodrich. She's kind of like the less active version of Marquise Noel, where she's going to have some head scratchers and she's going to have some nice plays that you really notice.
So she's Christian Duffy?
Basically, yeah.
I mean, we have Davion moments and we have some moments.
Yeah, some moments. That's what we've taken to calling them. That's trademarked by Ace.
Yes.
Moments.
Again, it's always our favorite players that end up just having those moments.
Yeah.
Which,
that is true.
Granted, Yoki is I think both of our favorite player on the team, but
yeah,
neither here nor there. Simone has had her moments,
yeah,
and no one else had moments to really offset them.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But beyond her, Laura Mackey added 4 points, and Taylor Lauterbach registered no stats in 5 minutes, and Jada Moore had a steal in her 1 minute of play, and I think she lost the ball somehow, or she actually got it off of Serena. And I think she should have had a turnover there. I don't quite remember.
Yeah.
But, K-State, they only shoot 35% from the field this game, 18% from 3, 82% of the free throw line. They went to the free throw line a lot because Texas, or the officials, I should say, were calling. They were calling
a little Freudian slip there, pal.
Yeah, they were calling a lot of, like I said earlier, they called a lot of fouls on the ball. If you were driving to the bucket and you got hacked, they were going to call it. And Texas found itself in the double bonus a lot at the end of quarters, which would get us 2 extra free throws there as well. But off the ball, they were still
tripping us.
Yeah, they were tripping.
They kept tripping us.
Yeah.
That's the thing that kept sticking out to me, was that we got tripped so many times, and it was abundantly obvious, but it was just away from the ball. So it wasn't called.
Yeah, the only times it got called were on Simone, which I will preface with, she did flop a little bit on it.
Yeah, that was kind of it was an excellent flop.
It was a great flop.
That was Oscar worthy.
Yeah, the reason that it worked was because of Texas actually kind of putting a foot in and tripping her, although she definitely acted on it, and like they did get the foul call. But I mean, Texas also, they did a lot of arm extensions. Like I said, they love playing physical, and they just essentially hope that the officiating sucks, which it was very hit and miss in this game. And when I say very, I mean there were some high highs and low lows.
Yeah, Mitty, if you can find it, find Mitty's comments after the game, because that pretty well will describe everything we're saying.
Yeah, he had some pretty spicy things to say about the officials.
He's going to be getting fined.
he will almost certainly be fined by the Big 12 Conference for the things that he said. But you know what? Sometimes as a coach, you just got to do it. I mean, he's making a lot of money anyways. So
true.
But it's a unfortunate loss for K-State women's basketball. Not particularly unexpected. Texas is a top 10 team, I believe.
They're number 10.
Yeah, they're really good. They're always really good, and you'd love to be able to get a win. But K-State, they did play decent at times. I mean, this is going to be just an annoying team for a long time. Texas will be, because of their brand of basketball. But I mean, again, all problems are solved by hitting your shots, and there were a lot of rim outs this game, especially for Ayoka. She had a few that really just rolled around and just didn't go down. And then whenever K-State would go on a run, which did get close a few times in the second half, Texas would have a response and put it back out to double digits. Also, I totally thought this final score was 60-51. I totally forgot about the last bucket that Texas had.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that. So
it was a pointless bucket, so who cares?
Yeah.
But yeah, that pretty much wraps up what we have to say about women's Catsketball. Now we can finally talk about the long-awaited return of the Batcats. And, you know, it didn't go how we wanted.
No, it did not.
Because our first game, we played a series of 3 in what is called the State Farm Showdown in Globe Life Park in Texas, which is right across the street from Jerry World. So K-State opening their seasons in
making a nice little home there.
Yeah, and it did not go the way we wanted to. Our first game was against Arizona. It was 6-8. Number, I think they're top 25. I think they're 10, aren't they?
I think they were higher. I think they were like 8th. They were top 10.
Yeah, they're a top 10 team, and we hung with them for quite a while. Unfortunately, what you'll notice to become a theme is that we had one particularly bad inning that we just could not recover from. That ended up being actually, no, you know what? Maybe this is excused from that, because this one was the only game of this series, or these 3 games that we played, in which the runs were actually spread out, because Arizona scored 1 in the second, 2 in the third, and then 3. Wait, did they just... Where's 5? Like, no. On the scoring summary, where's their 5th run?
This is a 2-run.
Oh, okay, it's a 2-run homer. Okay,
or 2-run double. So
right. Okay, I might be stupid. Hang on, but yeah, this was a game that our starting pitcher did very well. He was Blake Adams. You know, he gave up 4 earned runs. That's close enough to a quality start. Whenever you're in the 4-run range, at least from a baseball standpoint, you're kind of in that middle ground of blaming the offense and blaming the defense, because 3 runs, 6 innings is quality start. Then
this game I would err on the side of blaming the defensive field as opposed to...
That's also going to be a theme.
Yeah. Granted, there were some not great innings from pitchers. Wes Moore did not have a very good inning. He had 2 earned runs, 2 walks, a wild pitch, a hit by pitch, with 5 batters faced. He did have 2 strikeouts as well.
Yeah.
And the first one was his first batter, and then the other one was after a mound visit. So Wes Moore against the first batter he's seeing after either a mound visit or just in the inning is elite. Everything else is rough. Yeah. Nico Rodriguez didn't have a great outing either. 9 batters faced. He only got 1 strikeout, gave up another 2 earned runs on 2 hits. But
Tyson Neighbors did come in.
Yeah, Tyson Neighbors was
a bright spot.
Excellent this game. He only pitched 1 inning. He's going to be our closer this year, and he had 3 strikeouts, including 1 against an All-American, and they all were 4 pitches or less.
Yeah.
So, well, they're all either 4 or 3 because they're strikeouts.
Yeah.
Blake Adams didn't have an awful game. 6 innings pitched, 7 hits, 4 earned runs, but he'd have 8 strikeouts as well. He's the embodiment of this team. They're going to be aggressive in all ways, and it's really going to burn them at times, but other times it's going to go well for you, because he did give up I think 1 home run, if I recall.
He pitched into the 6th, so yes, he gave up 1.
Yeah, he gave up 2, I think.
2 home runs.
2?
Yeah, 2 home runs.
Yeah, he gave up 2 home runs, but he also had 8 strikeouts. He's a consummate strike thrower, very similar to Connor McCullough in that regard, but he's probably a little bit better than him. So, that's why he's the day 1 starter. But, that wasn't an awful performance from the starting pitching. I think that's going to be what we're going to see for the most part this year, is we're going to have good closing. We're going to have good starters.
The middle is going to be the issue.
Yeah, the middle will be the issue. The relief, someone's going to have to emerge as the leader. Granted, this is not the best.
This is not the place to get your sea legs.
Yeah,
they will be shot off.
Yeah, I would say this isn't the best sampling of how this team will be, because something I didn't know is that this team has more newcomers than returning players just because of the draft and graduates and whatnot. And then also, this was K-State playing some really, really good teams. Arizona, top 10 team. Michigan.
Borderline top 25.
Yeah, borderline top 25. And they made, I think they were in a regional, possibly super regional last year.
Yep.
And then Auburn. I mean, any team in the SEC is good. Even if they're below 500, they're an SEC baseball team. And that is prime hotbed recruiting. So Auburn, great team as well. I mean, K-State played what I think will probably be 3 teams that are in the NCAA tournament at the end of the year. And they simply ran out of gas with a very new squad. And also some, unfortunately, not clutch hitting from what was last year their clutch batters. So, also another common theme in these games was runners left on base. K-State had so many opportunities against Arizona, and we're just not able to drive them in.
Yeah.
A few bases loaded, or at least there was at least one bases loaded screw up, and I think I actually know what it was. It was no outs, bases loaded, and 3 straight strikeouts.
Yep.
Was what it was. But that it wasn't all bad from the batters. Dom Johnson, the transfer from Oklahoma State, he led off and was 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs and a walk. So excellent start for Dom Johnson to the season.
He would later be caught stealing.
He would be caught stealing as well, but he still was good, and I'm really looking forward to seeing him lead off for this squad. I think he's going to be another really good leader for this team going forward. I believe is only a sophomore, despite being a transfer, so he's going to be here for a little while at least. Cole Johnson did have a bit of a rough game. It's not listed in the fielding, but as I recall listening to this game, he did have a play where he misjudged a fly ball, and it essentially allowed 2 runs to come around.
Yeah.
And it didn't list as an error, but it was effectively a defensive error for Cole Johnson. He did have a sac fly, brought in some runs, but he did have 2 strikeouts as well. Dylan Phillips had a very unfortunate game. He did have 2 hits. He batted a run in, or he did score, I should say.
405, baby.
Yeah. And he was very, very close to getting K-State right back in this game in the 8th inning. I think he about had a 3-run homer.
It was a 3-run homer. The wall at Globe Life is 406.
Yeah.
He hit 405.
He did. It was caught right at the wall, and that was during a 5-run bottom of the 8th by K-State to rally from being down 8-1, and that would have put us ahead. And in a great position with Tyson Neighbors coming out to do what he did. So, I mean, that's a game K-State probably wins if he just gets a little bit more behind it. Or if he's just not Dylan Phillips and they aren't already playing deep. So,
yeah.
But Dylan Phillips also, he did leave 2 runners on base. He struck out twice. I think he was trying to do too much because he is the face of the team at this point, I would say. Coming off of an excellent batting season, excellent power hitting season.
Preseason All-American.
Yeah, preseason All-American. A lot of weight on his shoulders, and I think he wanted to do too much in a big showcase, and it ended up costing him. Nick Goodwin did not have the greatest day either. He did he did score once, but he did strike out, left a runner on base, and 3 at-bats because he got hit by pitch twice, which is really strange. But and then going off from that, newcomer Josh Nikoloff didn't do a ton, walked and got a hit in 4 at-bats. Although I will say Nick Goodwin and Dylan Phillips, they both had fielding errors as well in this game. That's not what you want to see from 2 of your leaders coming back.
Yeah, defense would be a struggle this entire week.
Yeah.
Then next up in the batting order was Cash Rugeley, who's the designated hitter. He would end up going 2 for 5 with scoring 1 run, but unfortunately 3 strikeouts.
Yeah.
Terrence Sperlin had 2 at-bats and a strikeout.
Yeah, and granted, I will say this for Terry. He did on his strikeout, he did come up limping from it. He was holding his lower back, and Sperlin has dealt with injuries his whole time at K-State, so hopefully he's able to fight through it. But, it's not a pleasant sign, especially when before the game, P. Hughes was talking about how unusual he is for a first baseman because he runs the defense.
Yeah.
And he is in charge of getting all the signs out, and that may be
it's tough.
Yeah, and then like you go down the line a little later and you look at the infielding and how it really struggled at times, and that might become a big plot point this season with Sperlin fighting injury.
Yeah. The only other person of note would be Justin Mitchell, who struck out twice and left 2 people on base, failed to get a hit in 4 at-bats. But then the number 9 hole hitter was Kalen Culpepper, who was surprising in his first out. Ended up going 2 for 3, scored a run, drove 1 in. Sitting in the 9 hole, that's... Yeah.
And as a true freshman making his first ever start at the hot corner, I mean, yeah. You cannot ask for much more from Kalen Culpepper in his first ever start as a Batcat. I mean, I was thoroughly impressed, and I there's high hopes for him as well because he's a fairly highly touted recruit that P. Hughes has brought in. I mean, this is a very talented team. It's just going to take him a while to mesh, I think.
Yeah.
Because if there's one thing that P. Hughes has been really good at, it's been recruiting. He's getting a lot of talent on these teams, and last year it showed. They just need to coalesce and really come together.
Our non-rev recruiting is ridiculous.
Yeah, we're doing excellent stuff by recruiting the non-rev sports, especially women's basketball and baseball.
Yeah.
But yeah, unfortunate loss for K-State, a close one. However, close losses would not be the theme of the weekend.
Nope. This is where the one bad inning trend begins, because the next game was K-State versus Michigan. Brian Smaller was on the call, which, shout out Brian Smaller. He does an excellent job calling these games.
And he calls a lot of games. He calls basically every non-revenue sport, I think. I think he calls soccer, and I know he calls women's basketball, and he calls baseball as well.
Yeah.
So especially at this time of year, he's really busy.
Yeah.
He went and called all of these baseball games on the radio back to back to back. Then he came back to Manhattan and called the women's basketball game, I believe. Well, actually, he would not have called that one because that was an ESPNU game.
Yeah.
But whenever they're on ESPN Plus, which is pretty much every other game, that's Brian Smaller on the call.
Yeah.
So.
Michigan ended up winning this game 10-2. I'll cover pitching if you don't mind. That'll be our system. I'll cover pitching. You can cover batting. So for K-State, the on the bump at the beginning of the game was Connor McCullough. He ended up giving up 5 hits, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, 1 wild pitch, faced 21 batters, and threw 94 pitches. So that's a pedestrian day. He didn't give up any earned runs, which is amazing, but he threw 94 pitches in the process, so he couldn't quite get that quality start. But still, very good outing from Connor McCullough. Then it fell apart.
Yeah.
Griffin Hassel came in. Following that, he ended up getting pinned for the loss. He pitched 1 inning, gave up 2 hits, and giving up 3 runs, all unearned, by the way.
Yeah.
On a strikeout and 2 wild pitches. So he took 30 pitches to get through 1 inning. That's not what you want from your relievers.
Yeah. Unfortunately, those were unearned runs because Nick Goodwin 2 games in a row with an error, and then Orlando Salinas. Listening to the call on that one was really frustrating because Salinas, he had a very easy play at first base that he botched.
Yeah.
And I wasn't entirely sure on the specifics of it just because, you're listening and you only get so much. But, I mean, that's an inning that case they have multiple opportunities to get out of easily, and fielding errors just completely derailed that.
Yeah. He ends up getting pinned with the loss, even though he gave up 0 earned runs. Mm-hmm. That's just how it goes sometimes. Then after that, Herman Ferraro entered for 1/3 of an inning, gave up a hit, 3 earned runs, 2 walks, 1 strikeout, and 1 wild pitch. Yikes. Then Tyson Neighbors said, I can outdo that, and then pitched 0 total innings by giving up 2 hits, 3 earned runs, a strikeout, a wild pitch, and...
Balk.
Oh, yeah, because that was the controversial balk.
Yeah.
Then even no one knew what was going on. Tyson Neighbors only pitched 7 pitches. Then it was finally handed off to Landry Weidman. Gave up 1 hit, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts with 37 total pitches. McCullough did well.
He did.
The bullpen fell apart.
Yeah.
Especially, was it the 7th or the 8th?
That would have been the 7th.
Yeah, the 7th destroyed us.
Yeah, the 7th. It might have been the 8th where all the runs really came around. No, it was the 7th. Yeah. So, 7 runs for inning number 7. And 3 in the previous. And this was a game that K-State led through 6. Or led through 5. And then they, bottom of the 6th, gave up 3. Then they got one back to make it 3-2. And bottom of the 7th, Michigan just absolutely explodes. And it's really, really, really unfortunate because Casey had another opportunity here to take out a quality opponent, and they just had the 1 inning collapse, and they just couldn't quite get over that. But again, 2 errors. I mean, this is just, I feel like that's, at least for a while,
that's going to be a theme.
It's going to be a theme, especially in the beginning of the year.
It was a theme last year.
And not down the end of the track. I mean, they figured it out once they really got together, but that wasn't until about April. I mean, this is going to be a team that probably for the next month, defensively, there's going to be some boneheaded plays. There's going to be a lot of struggles. But batting, I mean, they only got 2 runs in this game, but it's another game. They leave 10 on in this game, which is just horrid. And Dylan Phillips, he goes 0 for 4, 3 strikeouts, and 2 left on in this game. Dom Johnson, he gets 1 hit on 3 at-bats. Brady Day, he pinch hits for him because, I mean, we pinch hit everybody in this game down the stretch because we were down by so much. Brady Day does get a hit in his 1 at-bat. Cole Johnson, he had a RBI and a walk and a hit in 3 at-bats. Quality day for him. Dom Hughes, he pinch hit, did not end up registering an at-bat or a walk. What happened here? I think it was a pinch run, maybe.
Yeah, it could have been a pinch run. Well, no, those are marked separately.
Yeah, then
maybe it was a defensive sub.
He was a hit by pitch.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Dom Johnson was hit by pitch as well. Then Dylan Phillips, I already mentioned him. Really, really rough day. Caden Phillips came in, another Phillips, and he struck out in a bases loaded situation. Left 3 on there. Nick Goodwin had a really rough day. 2 strikeouts, 2 left on. Another fielding error for him. And then you go down. I mean, you just go down the line here. I mean, Josh Nikoloff at second base. He drew a walk and had 2 strikeouts and 3 at-bats, 4 plate appearances. Cash Ruggeli had a hit and scored a run, but he had a strikeout and 4 at-bats. Orlando Salinas had an RBI and a walk at 3 at-bats. Justin Mitchell had a hit and a run and a walk and 2 at-bats. Rafael Pelletier came in for Justin Mitchell, and he had a strikeout. And Kalen Culpepper, he unfortunately was unable to follow up his excellent debut. He went 0 for. He had 4 at-bats, no hits, 3 left on base. So rough day for Culpepper.
Rough day for the team.
Rough day as a whole. Yeah, there's not really many people you can look at and say they had a good day. Mitchell had an alright day, no strikeouts. Salinas, you can say the same thing. But for the most, I mean, you look up and down. I mean, yeah, Phillips had a really difficult day. 3 strikeouts. That's just going to be Phillips' game. He's swinging for the fences every time, which hopefully doesn't end up costing the team even more games. But, I mean, this was tough to listen to because it's another one that K-State just kind of let slip away and get out of control late in the game. But, again, pitching depth will be the Achilles heel of this team, especially until someone can figure it out. I'm not going to get too down about it yet because these are all quality opponents that they're facing, all NCAA tournament opponents that they're facing. They're beefing up their strength of schedule because they have to. Last year, it kept them out of the tournament.
Screwed. Yeah.
So, but, you know, Eric Torres, he took a couple of weeks last year, honestly, to get good because he had an ERA upwards of 30 for a little while. And even then it was above 10 until probably late March. And he had a really rough start to the season, but all of a sudden then he figured it out and became our best reliever by far. So I'm not going to phone it in yet. It's only been 3 games for a very, very young team. Only 4 seniors on the whole roster of about 40 people. So it's a really young squad with a lot of newcomers.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it gets worse.
Unfortunately, it gets worse because the next game was against Auburn, and Auburn smacked us. There is no way around it. It was a final score of 12-1.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure I want to go through stats.
Yeah, just 3 hits for K-State in this game, 13 for Auburn. No errors, surprisingly. Auburn had 1 error. But, yeah, the 1 error resulted in an unearned run in the first inning.
That was our only score.
That was the only score. I mean, Auburn just absolutely went to town. Look at all these hit by pitches as well. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hit by pitches, which is unbelievable. Also, another thing to keep an eye on in the pitching department is, I mean, there's going to be a lot of wild pitches on this team. And, I mean, Elijah Rubeck, he gets credited with the loss here with 10 earned runs in 3 innings. And four walks, 6 strikeouts, a wild pitch, 2 hit by pitches. Faced 23 batters. He did have an intentional walk, I guess. He had threw 97 pitches in 3 innings.
It's not ideal.
No, it is not ideal. And
Elijah Dale came in after him, pitched 1 inning, gave up 2 hits, 1 earned run to 3 strikeouts with a walk. Hit 4 people.
Yeah, hit 4 batters in an inning.
In an inning. He faced 10. He hit 40% of the batters he faced.
Yeah. After that, they got it under control for the most part, it looks like.
But at that point, it was too late.
Yeah, the damage had been done by this point. Auburn, I mean, in the 3rd through 6th innings, just absolutely went to town on this pitching staff. 3 runs in the 3rd, 2 in the 4th, 5 in the 5th, 1 in the 6th. And then they also had 1 in the 1st, but they didn't score any in the last 3. I'd imagine it's because they probably pinch hit absolutely everybody.
Yeah.
But, I mean, and then also Rubeck, this was the one weird thing I wanted to bring up. He was initially slated to start this game, but then he didn't because Colin Rothermel came in, pitched 1 2/3, had an earned run, a walk, a strikeout, a hit, 2 hit by pitches, faced 9 batters, and had 32 pitches. And then he came out for Rubeck, who was the original penciled-in starter, to pitch after 1 2/3, which I thought was really strange. I have no explanation for it.
Nope.
But yeah, this was a really, really, really rough performance by the pitching staff. Tyler Rule came in, he had 2 strikeouts, a walk, a hit, faced 6 batters. Then Dylan Pearson had a very similar stat line, although he did have 2 wild pitches, only lasted an inning, but he didn't give up any runs. And Blake Corsentino, 3 strikeouts, 3 batters faced, 12 pitches in the final inning. So, I mean, at least he closed well.
Yeah.
We'll look at batting. I didn't follow this game anywhere nearly as closely as I did the first 2. But Phillips had a very similar, I think he had an identical stat line where he had 3 strikeouts to 4 at-bats. Dom Johnson, he scored the lone run on unearned. He had a hit, 3 at-bats, and a strikeout.
Stolen base as well.
Yeah, 10 strikeouts for this team. 3 of them attributed to Dylan Phillips. It's going to be just a lot of strikeouts. Like, same thing as last year. And this isn't like the first few games where there's a lot of left on base moments.
No, because we just didn't get on base. We had 3 total hits.
Yeah, 3 total hits for this whole game. Dom Johnson with 1, Nick Goodwin with the other. He had an RBI. Batted in Dom Johnson the first inning, and he had a strikeout. And the remaining hit goes to Rafael Pelletier, who also drew a walk. And Cash Ruggeri and Orlando Salinas all drew walks as well. But, I mean, this is a game not many Wildcats got on base. Really, really rough performance. Not much to take from it either, other than we have a lot of work to do if we want to truly get to Omaha. And, you know what, I will say, I think there's a lot of talent on this team. It might be the most purely talented team that's been here in the last decade.
Yeah, you're probably right.
The difference, I do think, is experience and time playing together, especially when you have more newcomers than returning players. And I've mentioned that a few times already. But I'm excited. This is great experience for the team, I think, to play this high-level competition early, because that means that it will generally be easier from here. I mean, playing number 10 Arizona in your first game, you can't ask for a much better start to the season, especially having that be your best game of the weekend.
Yeah.
They can take this and they can build on it, and it's better to run into the buzzsaw in the first weekend than to figure out that you have a lot of things to figure out in mid-April.
Yeah.
So figuring out in mid-February, much better. But I'm excited to see what this team does, and despite some rough defense, I am excited for the pitchers as well. I'm excited to see what relievers will end up emerging. Tyson Neighbors, despite having the awful performance against Michigan, had a very encouraging performance against Arizona, where his slider was just eviscerating human beings.
Yeah.
It was borderline illegal, the junk he was throwing at the plate.
Yeah.
Which, granted, we can only see the highlights on the baseball page for K-State because nobody...
We're not paying $50 a month for...
Yeah, Flow Baseball.
Flow Baseball. Not worth it.
The worst streaming service of all time, at least for bang for your buck. But, yeah. And really young pitching staff, got a ton of experience. But, I mean, again, just a lot of, like, weird stats for this team as well. I mean, like, 5 wild pitches in the Michigan game. I mean, that's ridiculous. Like, how are you throwing 5 wild pitches in a collegiate baseball game? That's like Little League numbers. Like, that's pretty rough. But you know what? I'm not going to harp on this too long because baseball, luckily, is a very long season.
Yeah.
So, a lot to build on here. I am very excited for when they will be back in Twinton, which is a long
85 years.
Long time. But we can talk about their upcoming stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Their next series is a weekend series against Colorado State University, Bakersfield.
Cal State, Bakersfield. What's the difference, honestly?
There is.
they both have mountains, and they're both west of Kansas, so I'd say they're effectively the same.
Did I say Colorado?
Yeah.
Oops. California, yeah, Cal State University, Bakersfield. 3-game series there. And then they have a lot of games in California these coming weekends. They have another game on Tuesday. I have no idea who it's against.
I think it's Fullerton.
Yeah, it's Fullerton.
Yeah, they're playing Cal State Fullerton because there's like 80 million Cal State enter X random California city.
Yeah.
And
University of California, Los Angeles, some rando school.
Yeah. And then they close out with, is it Santa Clara?
It might be.
Or is it Loyola? It's Loyola Marymount. They have a 3-game series. Because I remember I looked on...
Well, we'll recap that next week. It's a good series.
Yeah. I looked on Google Maps because I was curious at how far apart all of them were because California is so huge.
Yeah.
And I think it's despite both being in Southern California, Fullerton and Bakersfield are 5 hours apart. Which is just awful.
Wonderful. Such a great state.
Yeah. Spending a whole week out in California... Regardless, it'll be fun for the team. I'm sure that they'll enjoy getting a week. I'm not sure if it'll be consecutive out in California.
I imagine it'll be consecutive.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably more expensive to fly them back.
Yeah, unless they're busing.
Yeah.
Well, if they're busing at that point, they'd have to drive back. They'd get a day here and then have to go back on the bus.
But, yeah, I'm really looking forward to watching the Batcats because they will be on ESPN Plus going forward.
Yay!
Finally. So they will be accessible to watch on a TV and not through alternative streaming methods, which granted I didn't find any alternative streaming methods.
I didn't either.
I looked around vaguely, but nothing that was going to be easy. So I was like, I'll just listen to the voice of the Batcats, Brian Smoller.
Yeah. But that pretty much does it for this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats. Thank you all so much for listening. If you want to contact the show, we are at Aggieville Alleycats on Twitter. That's capital A, and capital C in cats. If you want to email us, we're AggievilleAlleycats@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on a more personal note, I am at ACEdward00.
I am at Connor Baltazar, capital C, capital B.
And if you want to support the show in a financial sense, you can go to the official Aggieville Alleycats merch store where we have such designs as Place Sandstorm Cowards and Neon Alleycats. But most importantly, thank you all for listening to this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. Where come rain, shine, or anything in between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news that you so love. Stay safe, Alleycats.